Yo, welcome to Sig Slayers, the comic signature show, period. I'm Mike, the Sig Slayer, chilling with Mark, the honorable villain. What up, fam?
What's up, Mike? We got the best creative team in the game.
In the galaxy, I agree, man. Joining us today is the creative team of the Eisner nominated series Killadelphia, Rodney Barnes and Jason Shawn Alexander. But before we chop it up with the crew, though, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. All right, our next guest is the dynamic duo of indie comics. Not only did they create the hit series Killadelphia, they have launched a whole publishing line, Zombie Love Studios, giving us Anita Hall's Nightmare blog and Blacula, The Return of the King. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you writers Rodney Barnes and artist Jason Shawn Alexander, the creators of Killadelphia. What up, gentlemen? How you guys doing?
That was nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it actually made me like, I got a little dizzy at a certain point. I was like, wait a minute, who is he talking about? Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Killadelphia. I've been down to talk about Killadelphia. Rodney, the cat is out the bag, man. First of all, I want to thank you. You always dropping gems on the show. You're always giving us a little jewel of the future, so to speak. And so last time you were on, you said, you know, there was going to be some great characters from other properties coming into Killadelphia, right? And so we got Spawn, Savage Dragon, Blacula, among other characters that'll be popping up. Tell us about the foresight of this endeavor, though, Rodney. How long did this endeavor take? How long did you know that this all was going to take place?
That those characters were, the image characters were primarily, Jason was the one who not only suggested but pitched them, you know, as being a part of the world. And I think what both of us wanted was a departure from the sameness of volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 to feel like, okay, how can we do something that is still interesting, still part of the Killadelphia world, but a little bit more exciting and unpredictable. You know, we've had father, son, vampires, we've had all this arguing and people pregnant and fighting in the streets, but what have we done that can feel a little bit more fun in like a comic book in the traditional sense of the word, and something that just wouldn't be expected in a book like Killadelphia.
Man, why'd you describe my childhood in like one little facet, just pregnant, fighting in the streets?
Yes, that's a lot of our childhoods, but we can't all expect, like Jason lived on a farm and he was treated well his entire childhood. And I think, you know, part of his ability to be so stable is because he was nurtured so well.
Rodney's still mad that my parents love me.
There was some like real you and Rodney recorded, and you were talking about the Killadelphia 1 arc. That was like pretty much the only issue that you did traditionally. That just blew my mind. I have to ask you, has anybody contacted you? Because like when people think about, like collectors, when they think about it, like what? There's only like one, there's only 22 pages. That's it? Any ballers hit you up yet?
I think up till now, everybody thought it was all digital. Until I think I did that little video with them. So no, I haven't been hit up. Everybody at shows, people ask if I'm going to bring Killadelphia art. And the thing is like I think there are maybe 4 covers that exist that I as paintings that I did traditionally, and an issue and a half, and that's it. No, I haven't sold any of it. It's all, you know, it's all still together. So, I figure, you know, once Rodney can make that production deal happen, once we see it on TV, I'll make it available.
So there you go, chestnut checkers. You shared that you use actors and people as visual references, and you just mentioned like you like the acting part of your art, and you also use Rodney in a kill scene in Killadelphia. So, are there other familiar faces out there that you've used as visual references throughout your work, or within Killadelphia?
I mean, not necessarily as a cameo, but I do love that my friend Phil Morris posed for Sangster Senior Scully and Mulder have made little cameos in the backgrounds here and there. It's not the only time I've killed Rodney. If you, there's a later issue where Abigail Adams is standing there holding two heads, and then she throws them away, and both those heads are both Rodney and I. So I'm an equal opportunity, you know.
Why was Savage Dragon a good fit for Killadelphia?
Because it wasn't a good fit for Killadelphia. So it was to try to figure out how to fit him into the world. I mean, I think as a writer and probably as an artist, Jason can speak to that, you're looking for the challenge. You know, how can you make something that shouldn't seem to work? How can you make that thing work? And you take a little bit of what it is to add a little bit of what we are to try to make a seamless transition. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge that I think makes you a better creator.
Man, I gotta admit, I got a confession to make, Rodney. When you told me that Spawn was gonna be in Killadelphia, I thought, okay, this is like Spawn's coming home back to the hood. You know what I mean? Because it's like, Spawn's a black character, but you know, he's like kind of like in the mix of everything. You know,
Jason pitched him as a hip hop, and like he could cut an album or he was trying to sell Seesaw mixtape. And I said, Jason, I don't think that's a good idea. And he was hurt. We didn't talk for like 3 days. That was Jason's pitch.
After this.
Spawn in the hood. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Your trademark multiple faces, is that only reserved for your fine art and covers? I think I've seen it in a Spawn cover, but I haven't seen it in the actual sequential pages. Are you ever going to implement that?
There are two instances. One is I think I did it in Dead Irons once with this one witch character, but I did do that because I was excited to do it. The first thing I did with DC was a 60-page digital, before there was Comixology and all that stuff, and DC was just putting out their own half-screen comic pages digitally. Yeah. They had me come on and do a 60-pager that went along with the video game at the time, the Arkham video games.
Right.
And so it had the Joker in it. They're like, hey, it's a tight deadline, but it's 60 pages and it's digital, but it's like you get to kill the Joker in it. I'm like, yes, please let me have this. And so it was in that first go where, the Joker, there's a few pages that it just seemed right. And so there's multiple inky Joker expression.
Okay, I need to pick that one up.
Do it more. There is a project I'm doing with Mcfarlane right now where I think you'll get to see a lot more of that kind of stuff.
Let's go back a little bit. And how did you cross paths with Todd Mcfarlane in the first place?
I got an email.
Huh.
That was
just like that. So he contacted you,
and you thought it was a prank, right?
Yeah, I 100%. I thought I was being pranked by somebody because, I mean, Todd was my first idol. Like, he was the first guy I could ape Todd like nobody's, like no other 16-year-old could rip off Todd like I. And like it blew my mind. So he was my introduction into comics and wanting to draw comics. And I get his email, and he's just like, "Hi, Todd, you want to draw Spawn?" And I was like, "Fuck out of here!" Because I'm looking at it, but I'm also looking at this email address, and I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just saying it's a very old email address. You don't see a lot of that email. So I'm like, that could legit be somebody. So I was like, yes, I would, and blah, blah. And I got an email almost immediately back. They said like, oh, that's great. That's like let's talk about this further and get on the phone. And I'm like, who's fucking with me? Who is sending these? And I was like, but it doesn't, I'm not getting all the red flags in my head. So I'm just like, okay. So they're like, here's my number. And that was it. Sent it out. And then it was the next day I was pulling up to the comic book store, and I get a call, and the thing says Arizona. And at that point, I know that's where Mcfarlane Studios, his offices are. And I just sat there, I'm like, I'm just staring at it in my car, and I let it go to voicemail. I'm just like, no, that's not happening. And then I checked my voicemail, and it's like he and I had been friends for years or something. Like the voicemail just started off in mid-sentence of like, hey, I'm looking for Jason Stud Alexander. I'm looking for somebody to help me draw Spawn a little bit better. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, somebody's fucking with me. Somebody's impersonating Todd Mcfarlane. Like, what is happening? And I called the number back, and I'm sitting there talking to, like, I pull over, and I'm sitting there talking to Todd on Ventura. And I'm just like, this is happening. Like, at that point, my 46-year-old ass was 16. And I was just like, this is crazy. This is insane. And because I'd done Empty Zone through Image, that's how he found me and wanted Spawn at that point to start taking on more of a horror quality. And that's how he, and he of course loves to promote, anything inside Image. And so he found me and hit me up. And I was like, that's insane. And he asked me if I wanted to draw the stuff. And I said, sweet, can I write it? And he was like, well, oh, all right. Well, yeah, like, let's throw some stories around it. I brought on my co-writer friend at the time. And so the first 6 issues I actually co-wrote with my friend Dara Savage. And then I said, oh, that's awesome. Can I color it? And he was like, oh, you can do everything. You're a Renaissance man. And he said, yes, of course. And then we get off the phone and I looked at my wife. I was like, I got to go buy a Cintiq and teach myself how to color.
Whoa.
So I taught myself how to color on the pages of Spawn.
Why did you want to put your bid in for the colorist on that, not knowing how to color? What made you want to take that leap of faith?
At that point, whenever I've gotten to show out, it's been painting comics, and I really wanted to control. I wanted to be kind of painty. I wanted to control the palette. And I wanted to, I just wanted to do all of it.
Wow.
So I figured I was already deep with asking if I could kind of write the thing. So I was like, shit, let's just see what you can do. So, those first 6 issues feel like the most mine out of that run. And then after the 6, he was describing to me what was going to happen in issue 300. And if I wanted to either come back or if I wanted to stay on. And I was like, dude, let's just stay on. And essentially, I didn't realize that he was a big proponent of it. But at that point, I'd done all of these panels with guys like Kent Williams and Bill Sienkiewicz and Dave McKeon. And when we're all going down and introducing ourselves and listing our work, they all have these bodies of work, Sandman and Cages, and then Sienkiewicz is talking about Elektra and all this other stuff. And I sat there and I was like, I don't have a body of work. I have a bunch of miniseries, but I was like, I don't have anything I can point to. And so when I was on Spawn, I was like, well, I'm already with my idol. He's already schooling me every 5 minutes. I was like, let's make Spawn my body of work. And so that's why I purposefully wanted to stay on to 300. I knew would give me 25 to 26 issues. And I was like, that'll be where people will fucking know my name at that point, because I'm on the stands every month. And he was right. You do a body of work. It is one of the most difficult things in the world, but man, you really kind of get your foot a little bit more entrenched, in that door. Like, you get more established by having real bodies of work behind you.
Keeping on with Seesaw, my favorite part in Killadelphia is when Seesaw asks that question. Why do police see people like me as the enemy? Did you intend to create a parallel between cops and vampires as predators in Killadelphia?
No. I think the idea was always to try to use vampires to elevate the idea of what I see. Sometimes people who live in impoverished situations become powerless because we live in a capitalistic society. So giving them power, which is what vampirism is in the world of Killadelphia, puts them on a plane where they have to be respected in a way that they typically aren't. So it wasn't so much as a metaphor for police as much as it was a metaphor for empowerment.
That's deep, man.
again, never go to Jason, because Jason always asks me, "Why are you so hard on the police? They're our friends." And I was like, "Jason, Jesus!" And it takes a learning curve. It is. The learning curve is always difficult when it comes to Jason, because that's his. We come from different worlds, obviously, but we come from different worlds.
That line, I remember very much in that script. I was just, when I was reading those early scripts, I was like, well, shit, we are in this.
I wanted to keep it on Seesaw. So why is Seesaw's political narrative an important thread in Killadelphia?
I tried to have a character who represents the voiceless. And I felt like all of the components that Seesaw has sort of speak directly to that. So I try to keep him in the center of things so that he doesn't get drowned out. That's why he has more power than anybody else. He typically is at the forefront of the narrative or the forefront of how a storyline begins or ends.
Rodney, I always want to ask you this question because you write across so many different genres. Mm-hmm. How do you develop the skill to write in different voices and slang and dialect? Where does that skill come from?
Desperation. I got these kids I got to feed, and they keep coming. They keep wanting to go to school. They keep like, "Daddy, I'm hungry." So I got to come up with another job. So, they would not go hire you if you can't do the thing. So you have to be able to do the thing. Yeah, no, you have to have, just from a commerce place and a creative place, if you can only do one thing, you limit your opportunities. And I think if you look at comics of old, like those early Marvel books, you'd see creative teams, the Len Wens and the Roy Thomases and just different folks would move from book to book to book. And they could be vampire books, they could be superhero books, they could be a lot of different things. And so at the heart of all of this is story. If you can tell a story, you typically can be a little, you can have some dexterity in how that story manifests itself. So I try to do that. And I always wanted to be the kind of guy that just could, be a jack of all trades. And it's a challenge. The same way you asked me about Savage Dragon. It's the same thing. Like, how you get Savage Dragon in there. Well, it's the same way I can go from a Star Wars book to any other kind of book.
At this point, you're a horror guru. Where did that fascination of horror imagery stem from?
The beginning. My mom is a Stephen King fan, and they were probably, I'm 48, I'm Gen X guy, so like my parents didn't have great filters. Like they were like, let them watch it. And so my older brother became a huge horror fan. They would talk about, they were like Stephen King book club. And so for me, a kid who definitely didn't enjoy sitting in front of just bars of text all day, it was the visual stuff. So once I started, once I got old enough and started seeing these movies, specifically, what really started getting the engine going was like the early Nightmare on Elm Streets. I became obsessed with the visual side. I wanted to make those monsters. And so from a very early on, I wanted to do special effects and makeup, and I just wanted to make monsters in horror movies. And that's why there's like a signed, Tom Savini picture in my background. I'm just like, I love makeup and special effects so much. And that was the path. I was actually headed on that path all through junior high and high school. And somewhere around the end of high school, Mcfarlane and all those guys started making their appearance, and I was just blown away. And I was like, whoa, and I just jumped straight onto comics. I was like, I want to tell stories. But that horror, the fascination and the love of like the dark and macabre and horror, it started early.
Where are we in the continuum of the Killadelphia universe? So here we go. You got some options here. Are we knee deep in the continuum? Have we just scratched the surface? Or are we putting on our shoes, gearing up for a victory lap?
Somewhere between knee deep and victory lap.
That's okay. Anything you want to add to that, Jason?
That sounds right.
All right, so this question is for the both of you, starting with you, Jason, and go wherever your mind goes with this, guys. because you guys been on a ride with Killadelphia. So, how has Killadelphia changed your lives?
With a lot of other bodies of work, but like with working with Rodney specifically, Killadelphia it's made me a better storyteller. Like every script, I've been lucky enough that 34 scripts now, and they've all blown my mind and challenged me, and so each issue forces me to like pay attention and up my game. And so where other books and all that you can play and kind of ebb and flow, I think Killadelphia has changed my life because it's just it's kind of renewed it really lit a certain level of comics that had kind of gotten a little tired, and really it's just the thing I love the most about comics is storytelling, and it's made me a better storyteller.
Rodney, how has Killadelphia changed your life?
I've decided never to talk to Jason again.
That's me now.
That's the first one. How's it changed my life? I mean, I think it was the first book. A lot of books up until this point is me trying to figure out how to do a book, how to do a book, what's my voice in comics and all of that. I think Killadelphia was the first book that, as a writer, I figured out how to work with an artist, even if I want to kill him.
Did you?
Exactly. See, it's that mouth. That's the part that people don't hear. People think it's me. They think I'm the problem. The problem is him. He's very snappy. He's very sassy.
What?
No, I think it was the dexterity of storytelling. Some stories have been funny, some have been horrifying, some have been dramatic. It's the gambit. It's everything. So it's pushed me to write and figure out different ways to do a book that in today's world has been running a long time.
Rodney, Jason, thank you for joining us, man. As always, you got a home away from home on the Sig Slayers station. Please pick up Killadelphia, Blacula, Return of the King, everything Zombie Love Studios. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Sig Slayers. I'm Mike, speaking for Mark and the Killadelphia crew. We are out.
Sig Slayers.